Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Girivana Dari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Girivana Dari Jaya Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Girivana Dari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Girivana Dari Jaya Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Jana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Asatara Sri Mother's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So, very nice to be here today. We came yesterday afternoon and we had a little home program. I know some of you were at the program in the evening last night, and feel very fortunate to be here to try to say a little something this morning. No one gave me a verse, that's all right. We know Srila Prabhupada, he's person Bhagavat, book Bhagavat, person Bhagavat. Of course, from my vision, book Bhagavat is also person Bhagavat. All the books we have are coming from Srila Prabhupada. Beautiful, very beautiful deities here. Last time I was here, I think it was about 14 years ago, right around, and also that time I was here just for the one day. Somehow my schedule has been made in such a way that coming here overnight was what was on the schedule, so we were able to come for this one day. I'd like to come for a few days sometimes. See, this is amazing. It's known as one of the best projects in all of ISKCON, especially if you call Farm Project. It's certainly one of the most beautiful places I've been to. I started out in New Vrindavan in 1971. And I came from the city. I came from Philadelphia, which was at that time fairly big city, 5 million people or so. And they say when we arrived at Bahulaban Farm, Kirtanananda Swami, we were in Philadelphia, we met the devotees at Earth Day Festival, 1971. So Earth Day they have in the US, it's April 22nd, goes on in different places, and they've been doing it every year since then. And 1970 was the first year, so that was, we could see kind of the beginning of the green movement way back then, 1970. And my friend and I, we were looking for something. We were both going to LaSalle College, and we were searching. We were both searching for God. We were both raised Roman Catholics, went to Catholic school. Prabhupada said Christians were Vaishnavas because they accept God as a person. Of course, I didn't know who that person was. Jesus never gave those details. Even in grade school we had, it was called the Catechism. That was like the basic structure of the Catholic Church. Questions and answers were there. And even on one page, it stays in my head all the time, there was a picture of God, not Jesus, his son of God. There was a picture of God, and he was sitting on a throne. Kind of looked like the Lincoln Memorial. If you know, in the U.S., the Lincoln Memorial, big statue of Lincoln. But his face was blank because they didn't know who God was. You know, we knew there was a God. They even said, made in the image and likeness of God. We're made in the image and likeness of God. But he didn't have a face. So that was later on, and when I was 19 years old, I wanted to know who that person was. My friend, he was very philosophical, reading books all the time, reading all these books. Me, I just wanted to know God. I wanted to feel God. I wanted to experience God. Unfortunately, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we went and saw those devotees in the park. They were chanting. Everybody else was chanting as well. They were chanting rock songs. You know, it was a big party going on in the park, Earth Day celebration. Lots of smoke in the atmosphere. And he convinced me to go see these funny-looking people with shaved heads, yellow dhotis. Everyone had on the bright yellow dhotis and kurtas, and the women had on bright saris. And they all had bright white tilak on their foreheads. It wasn't chandan. It was fuller's earth. That's something you get at the hardware store. You patch the walls with it, fine powder. And you would put it on 4 in the morning, 4 o'clock next morning, it's still on there. Wipe off the old fuller's earth, put on the new one. So they were very bright, shaved heads. Even in the news, right? We were known as bright-faced. The Hare Krishnas were called bright-faced. No one else was bright-faced. Even in Harinam Sankirtan, 12 hours a day in the city centers, hot, cold, whatever it was, they were bright-faced chanting Hare Krishna. And I went up to one young devotee. Everyone was young. Daiva Shakti was one of them. Her husband at that time was the temple president, Nayana Baram. She was a book distributor back then. And found some person I walked up to and said, "What's going on?" We're chanting the names of God, Hare Krishna. So who is God? That was it. I asked that magic question. He was delighted. He went off, told me all about God. He might have been in the temple for a few months, but he told me his name, his address, phone number, his mother's name, father's name, who he hangs out, everything about God, everything I wanted to know. And my friend and I, we went to the temple every evening for Bhagavad Gita class. The third day, Kirtanananda came, and he was collecting people from the temples. Sannyasis did that back then. They would steal devotees from the one temple, bring them to where they wanted. So he convinced us to go to New Vrindavan. And Saturday we left home, left our families, left our college scholarships, went to New Vrindavan, shaved our heads just like that. And I saw cows for the first time. 19 years old before I saw a cow. And a few weeks later I was milking cows. So that was, my transition was that fast. So I started out at the top. I became a cowherd boy in New Vrindavan, and I worked my way down ever since then. But somehow or other, I'm very happy we are to come here, right? Vishaka Saki Devi, to see Krishna Balaram. Radha, she was saying, they're such innocent boys. Vishaka laughed. Not innocent. Krishna Balaram are not innocent. Prabhupada said Krishna is crooked. He's a crooked person. You see how he stands. His stance is crooked. Hair is crooked. And he captures us crooked ways. Prabhupada on a morning walk said, I was in Perth, Australia. I'm here because of the 50th anniversary of the installation of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai in Melbourne. And also Prabhupada's stay in Perth, Australia was 50 years ago. I was with them. For that. So Sitaram arranged for me to come here, go to these different temples. But on the morning walk, Prabhupada said, his morning walks were always very wonderful, very interesting, sometimes amusing. He would like his disciples to play devil's advocate as he would preach and defeat them. The scientist, one of his favorite. What do the scientists say? What do the scientists say? And then if you were daring, you would give him an answer. Because sometimes he would look at you and say, why do you think like that? Someone once said, Bhagavad Gita. Devotee said, Prabhupada, they say Bhagavad Gita comes within the Christian era less than 2,000 years ago. Prabhupada said, why do you think like that? He said, Prabhupada, it's not me. So you had to be careful on the morning walks. And on this walk, Prabhupada said, so the devotee, he's simple or crooked? Crooked? Who can a devotee be crooked? Simple. These are the things we learn, right? Brahman, he's simple, he's quiet, he's grave. Crooked doesn't come in the list of devotees anywhere, 26 qualities, 28. Not crooked. And I was with Prabhupada now for 2 years. So I knew better than to try to answer such a question. So finally it was a moga. Prabhupada, he's simple. Prabhupada always had when he said, no, you're wrong. He had a very nice way. He would shake his head happily. No, he said, he's crooked. He said, just like all of you are here, he said, I've tricked you into becoming Krishna conscious. Huh? I was saying last night, it's devotees simple. Just chant Hare Krishna. That's what we tell everyone. Chant Hare Krishna. Don't have to give up anything. No hard and fast rules. Then you spend a little time. Then we didn't spend any time. You learned the hard and fast rules at the first day you walked into the temple. Now sometimes it'll take 10 years to tell someone the hard and fast rules of Krishna consciousness. It's a little different. So many rules and regulations. Prabhupada said that in the beginning. If I told you all the rules, he said you couldn't even follow all the rules and regulations. I see a whole debate the other day about carrots. Some Vaishnava communities, they don't eat carrots either on Ekadasi. Prabhupada was very kind, very compassionate. More than anything he wanted us to do was preaching. Prabhupada wanted preachers. And in order to do that, he would accept anything. His servant for some months, Harikesh. Harikesh was a very passionate devotee. And he became Prabhupada's servant. And when you were Prabhupada's servant, but he was very passionate. So much so that he would sometimes argue with Prabhupada. One of my fun stories is his story. He told it at Los Angeles some years ago. All the cooks, so many of Prabhupada's cooks were there, 7 cooks that cooked for Srila Prabhupada. So he was telling, when you travel with Prabhupada, just like we're traveling, everywhere you go, it's a different situation. It's not that you come to some temple, you have a nice kitchen to cook in, Prabhupada's lunch. He didn't even like his servant in the temple kitchen. He wanted them close by his servants all the time, very close. My kitchen was usually tiny servants' quarters near Prabhupada. Sometimes it was a closet. Bhaktivedanta Manor was a closet right next to Prabhupada's room. Literally 1 meter by 2 meters. No windows, just a door, a closet, bucket of water, little table to put the cooker on, a little gas stove they would bring in. So one place Harikesh was in, he had to make chapatis. Making chapatis, it's nice to have good facility, nice heat, proper heat, everything. So he had this little stove that was there. So he served Prabhupada his lunch, and the chapati wasn't puffed up. Has to be puffed up. It's no good. Chapati's not puffed up, it's no good. If you're puffed up, you're no good. Chapati's not puffed up, it's no good. So he gave it. Prabhupada said, this is useless. Prabhupada, you can't make chapatis. See, I would never say anything like that to Prabhupada, even if I knew you couldn't. There's certain things you just didn't cross a boundary with Prabhupada, say you can't do this. That's a challenge to Prabhupada, saying you can't do something. There's nothing, as we know, right? Prabhupada said, impossible, a word in a fool's dictionary. That was Prabhupada's. You can't make chapatis, Prabhupada, the stove. And Prabhupada got up. Lunches, he got up from his table, went into the kitchen with them. Look at this stove, and Harikesh is going on. Look at it. How can you make a chapati that's not hot enough? It's this, it's that. Prabhupada rolled out chapati, put it on the tava, this way, that way, this way. Then he put it on the tiny little flame was there. It didn't puff up. Harikesh was very happy. See, Prabhupada? Prabhupada rolled another chapati, put it on the tava, put it on the flame, it puffed up. He took it and he threw it at him. walked out of the room. So after some months, Prabhupada called Harikesh in, wanted to send him to Russia. Harikesh didn't want to go. He wanted to stay with Prabhupada. Prabhupada knew his time was up. He wanted to send him out to do something. Go out and do something. Go out and preach. Prabhupada could go there. There's nothing to eat in Russia. They eat. They don't have any rice, no grains, no milk. All they eat is meat. He said, eat meat if you have to. He said, just go preach. He didn't want to go. Prabhupada says, all you do is argue. He said, no, I don't. We all had our special relationship with Prabhupada, his servants. We were all a little different. Huh? We all had different natures with Srila Prabhupada. It's so nice to be here. See Mataji's on the altar. It's very baffling when you live in Vrindavan for 5 years. And then you look at the altar, you see this woman walking back and forth. What are you doing there? This was Srila Prabhupada's mercy, huh? When I first joined him, he traveled. We went from New Vrindavan, one day in Pittsburgh, then Dallas, then Los Angeles, then Hawaii. Then we went to Asia, Bangkok, Thailand, Burjan. You all know Burjan Prabhu. He was there. Prabhupada had sent him there. So I had only been with Prabhupada 2 weeks at that time. 20 years old. 2 weeks I'd been with Prabhupada. I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm massaging Prabhupada. It's in a hotel room. Prabhupada was staying in a hotel. He didn't like hotels at all. He would stay in unfinished quarters at the temple. And he did it in Vrindavan. He did it in Mayapur. He did it in Juhu. If 80% complete, 60% complete, he said, I'm staying in my room. Never wanted to stay outside of the temple. So where was I? Yes. So I'm giving a massage. This is 74 years old. This is what happens. She always, every lecture, she said, man, you were all over the place. Say, yeah, but the point got across one way or another. So I'm giving him massage. I'm behind him, massaging his back, and Burjan's in front of him. First thing that happened, Burjan says he gave Prabhupada a little container, a little silver container, had sandalwood oil in it. He gave it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, this is for kajal. And Burjan said, no, Prabhupada, no, there's sandalwood in it. He said, yes, but it's for kajal. And Burjan, he didn't understand. Well, Prabhupada, it's sandalwood. He said, it may be sandalwood, but the container's for kajal. You never argue with Prabhupada. It's not a good idea to argue with Prabhupada. So I'm massaging him. This is 1972. Prabhupada's headed to Vrindavan for Kartik. He was very, very conscious. One of the plane rides in the U.S., he said, so we're going to Vrindavan for the month of Kartik. I didn't know what Kartik was. None of us knew what Kartik was, what it meant. He said, and every day I'll give class from Nectar of Devotion. He said, and you'll read from the Nectar of Devotion. He said, and I'll stop you and give commentary. So he was very aware, and it would be the first time he spent the month of Kartik in Vrindavan since he left back in 1965. This was his first month of Kartik in Vrindavan, and he was very excited. But he also knew he was bringing his Western disciples there, right into the very heart of Vrindavan. His Malecha disciples, his dancing white elephants, made them Vaishnavas. And he knew people were critical. So as I'm massaging, he's looking at Burjan, and he said, my God brothers, they criticize me. for allowing women in the temple. See? They criticize me, he said. But he said, by making that adjustment, he said, we've been successful. He said, I studied. When I went to America, it was a year before Prabhupada started preaching. People started coming. He initiated. A year went by before he established International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He said, but they criticize me. He said, but if you go to Mayapur on Gaur Purnima, he said, who's in the temples? Nothing but widows, he said, all women in the temples. And again, he said, but they criticize that I've allowed women in the temple. He said, but I studied the culture and saw in the West, men and women always together. There's no question you could separate. He said, so I made that adjustment. I'm behind him, just massaging his back. And I asked probably my most thoughtful question ever. And I'm massaging, and I said, Prabhupada, what's the difference between changing a principle and making an adjustment? And then it got quiet. I'm still rubbing his back. And finally he said, that requires a little intelligence. But imagine, Srila Prabhupada had his mission, spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. When he went to the US 60 years ago, this September, big festival, like we're having these 50th anniversary festivals, going to have the 60th anniversary of Prabhupada setting foot in Boston Harbor. 60 years ago, Prabhupada did that. And he came knowing his early disciples, Govinda Dasi tells, you see many desks in Prabhupada's quarters, different temples around the world. There's a globe. Prabhupada would spin the globe, and he would tell them, you're going to go here, you're going to Japan, you're going to Russia. From the very beginning, he never had small vision. He was going to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. It was in Juhu, 1974. Prabhupada was no temple there in Juhu, although he promised Radharasa Bahari, I'll build you a very beautiful temple. We have Giriraj Maharaj, we know, he wrote the book. Prabhupada said to him, it was a good fight, Mr. Nair. Someone should write a book about it. There's been multiple books written about it. Lokanath Swami wrote a book about it. Giriraj Maharaj wrote a book about it. So, anyway, again, I lost my train. Yeah, that was a good fight. And this was a good fight, spreading Krishna consciousness around the world. Not just men and women. England, 3 Grahasta couples. His spiritual master sent his sannyasis to Europe, to England, and sent them money from India. What little money he would send them. Nothing happened. Couldn't get anything started. But Prabhupada was determined. He said he told me there in Juhu, one evening massage, best time of the day. People say, when I was with Prabhupada, for me, best time of the day was evening massage. No one ever goes in Prabhupada's room. He's not in his sitting room, he's in his bedroom. And lights, whatever light would come in through windows or whatever. Prabhupada would sit, lie down in bed. Best time, Juhu and Mayapur and Vrindavan, because you had mosquito nets over the bed. Normally, Prabhupada would lie in bed and I'd sit on the floor, massage him. But in those places with the mosquito net, you climbed in bed with him. You literally sat on the bed. Prabhupada's in the bed and you're sitting there under a mosquito net, like a tent. You feel like you're camping with Srila Prabhupada. It was so close, so intimate. And sometimes he'd tell stories. So many stories he told. You'll see in Satsrup Maharaj's book, these stories about childhood. Many of them come from Prabhupada telling stories while he's getting massage at night. And he would just go back. So he did that the one time. And as all you do, you just do your service. Never stop your service. That was the connection. You don't sit there and listen to the stories. You're massaging and listening to the stories. And then he said, when I was a child. Imagine, and whenever he would say that, I would try to imagine Prabhupada being like this tall, you know, how to conceive of Prabhupada. When I was a child, he said, one night, he said, I told my mother, I want puris. You read, Prabhupada said his mother was the disciplinarian. And he said it was good. He said, because my father, he would do anything I wanted. Whatever I wanted, my father would do. He said, but mother, she was little. Made him go to school. He never wanted to go to school. Do you like to go to school? Sometimes, yeah. They had to get someone to bring him to school. They had to hire someone to bring him to school. He said that. Who likes school? He said, I didn't like school. Anyway, it's good if you like school. He said, I wanted puris. My mother said, no, too late. Nighttime. He said, I'll make you muri, puffed rice. Prabhupada couldn't say no to Prabhupada, even as a child. Huh? I tell that as we travel around different householders' places and they have their children. I say, oh, Prabhupada was like that too. Makes them feel better that it's not hopeless. My crazy son, 5-year-old son, running all over the place like a madman, you know. And Prabhupada insisted, I want puris. And again, his mother, no, too late, I'll make you puffed rice. 3 times. Everything in Vaishnava, 3 times always becomes so many things with Prabhupada, but 3 times. Prabhupada said, I want puris. And his father, Prabhupada said, my father said, if he wants puris, give him puris. And then he said, perhaps my father knew. That's all he said, perhaps my father knew. So you would know. He was that person, empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, empowered by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was the person to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world, just by those few words, perhaps my father knew. This was Srila Prabhupada. His determination to give Krishna to everyone. And then we finally got to Vrindavan. I had been cooking for Prabhupada every day, his lunch. We got to Vrindavan, Radha Damodar Temple, my first time outside of the USA, in India, at Radha Damodar Temple. Prabhupada called it his rooms when you come to Vrindavan. We've been at Krishna Balaram Mandir for 5 years. We've not been to one other temple in 5 years. We just go Krishna Prabhupada's home. He said he put all the tirthas in the courtyard of Krishna Balaram Mandir. You don't have to go anywhere else, everything right there. The hub of the wheel, he said, of the spiritual world, the very center of the spiritual world, he said, are his rooms at Radha Damodar Temple, because the Krishna consciousness movement began there. He said, by Srila Rupa Goswami. He started it, Srila Rupa Goswami. Such an incredible place. And we get there, Gaurachan Goswami, they open the doors to see the deities, Radha Damodar. Prabhupada offers dandavats, then they close the curtains again, and then they come out with big Govardhana Shila footprint, Krishna's footprint. Again, we all get down. We just follow Prabhupada, whatever he does. And then he said, you just circumambulate this Govardhana. Same as going around Govardhana Hill. 22 kilometers. You can go around, 10 minutes, you can go around 3 times at Radha Damodar temple. And Jamuna was there. Jamuna, imagine a woman. And she's in the kitchen. Now you got to imagine kitchen in Vrindavan. Don't think kitchen. It's just a spot on the floor. She's sitting on the floor with a bucket stove, with cow dung on the stove. Fire, sometimes little coals under it, but cow dung. This is the stove. Little bucket of water next to you. Tiny little room. It was kind of like a pie-shaped room. Prabhupada sat in that corner of the room and he would look through there. As he took prasadam, he would see Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir. As he wrote his books, he would be looking all the time through those windows. So I didn't have to cook for Prabhupada. So I'm just sitting on the veranda. She made him breakfast. She was incredible. She had this little metal box she would put on top of this bucket. And that was an oven. That was a little transcendental oven. She baked an apple in there. She cored it, put in sugar and raisins, all this stuff. She could do amazing things with nothing at all. She could make these wonderful preps. So then lunchtime came. Prabhupada was on the other side. He'd bathe and then he'd put on clothes, put on his tilak, say Gayatri. Then he would walk across the veranda. I'd just be sitting on the veranda, not cooking for the first time, chanting. He'd walk across, I'd offer obeisances, and he went behind the screen door. The door was painted black, dark screen. You couldn't see any inside. I had never even seen in there. And he went in. After a few minutes, and I could see Jamuna rolling chapatis, you know. As soon as I saw it, I thought, this Mother Yasoda. All I could think was, she's like Mother Yasoda. She was very motherly. We had a very sweet relationship. And I would see her rolling chapatis there, her whole body shaking. So a few minutes go by and I decided, open the door. And I opened the screen door to look inside to see what it was. I didn't know how big the room was. I didn't know anything. But I look in, and of course she's right there. And over on the right was Prabhupada sitting on the floor, taking prasadam. Little table like this in front of him. Little cushion he's sitting on, and he's taking prasadam. My first day in Vrindavan. And he sees me poking my head in the door. He said, "Have you taken prasadam?" I said, "No, Prabhupada." I said, "I'll take with the devotees after you're finished." He said, "No, sit down, take prasadam." I refused again, a second time. I said, "Prabhupada," I said, after you're done, I said, he said, "Come, take prasadam." One thing, a spiritual master tells you to do something, you don't question it. And after that time, I generally didn't. If he wanted to give me something, very happily received it. But that's what you're supposed to do. You don't disagree with your spiritual master. He wants to do something, you do it. This is Vaishnava behavior. Huh? So I went in, sat down right next to Prabhupada, very center of the spiritual world. I sat right down beside him. Immediately, Jamuna made a placemat for me to sit down, gave me a little something, made up a thali, little katoris in it, little dal, rice, chapati, made fresh chapati, everything. And I'm sitting next to Prabhupada, taking prasadam at Radha Damodar temple. And I started to taste it. And I realized Prabhupada's really very merciful, letting me cook for him. Her prasadam was just wonderful. Everything was so nice. Prabhupada doesn't say anything. He's eating 1 chapati, 2 chapatis, 3 chapatis, 4, just taking prasadam. And I'm sitting next to him. First time. Never happened again. Sometimes life member houses, a group of us would be there, but it was the one and only time Prabhupada invited me to sit with him. And I'm eating, and it was wonderful, delicious, sumptuous, Prabhupada would say. So then Prabhupada finished, I finished. He looked at me. He said, so? He said, did you like the prasadam? I said, yes, Prabhupada, very much. He said, good. Now tomorrow you cook for her. This is Krishna consciousness. She cooked for me that day. My duty was cook for her. I didn't cook for her, nor would she want me to cook for her, nor did he expect me to cook for her. But it was the mood, understanding what it is to be a devotee, Vaishnava, Vaishnavi. Prabhupada brought everyone. He brought us all together to serve Krishna together, Krishna Balaram, Radha Govardhana Dari, in devotional service. Prabhupada understood how to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. And he said, we call one another Prabhu. That's become one of the debates over the decades. Women, there's no such thing as calling women Prabhu. Prabhupada says in the Mataji. But he gave that understanding. We see one another as Prabhu. I call you Prabhu, you call me Prabhu. There's no question that anyone is your servant. And someone does something for you, as Prabhupada said, now tomorrow you cook for her. Imagine, poor Jamuna, if I would have cooked for her. What a disappointment. That was 72, October. So then, 2 years later, Prabhupada's in Vrindavan, got very, very sick when Janmashtami time. The temple was supposed to have the grand opening, Krishna Balaram Mandir. It didn't happen. Then Prabhupada became sick. For more than a month, he didn't eat. He's in bed. That same bed you see in his room there, in his sitting room. So he was at that time in that bed, just eating a little orange every day. So one evening, he called me in the room, and he said, I want you to make me upma. I said, oh, okay. Jamuna was right on the other side in what we were using for his kitchen at that time. Later became Prabhupada's bedroom. At that time, it was a kitchen. I said, oh, Jamuna's here, Prabhupada. He said, no, I want you to make it. He said, I like your upma. He said, I want you to make it. I said, yes, Prabhupada. So I offered obeisances, left the room. Jamuna's there, Daiva Shakti's there. One little metal trunk with a few ingredients in it. 1974. No stores anywhere around Raman Reti. And I said, what did Prabhupada say? As soon as you left Prabhupada's room, if somebody was there, what did Prabhupada say? That's all we wanted to know. What did he say? What came out of that lotus lips of Srila Prabhupada? Because whatever it was transcendental, it was relishable. And I said, Prabhupada asked for upma. And of course, Jamuna right there, she said, oh. She said, all right. So I'll get started. I said, Jamuna, he said he wants me to make it. He likes my upma. And she looked at me, she said, what can I do to serve? What can I do? She didn't say, I'm Jamuna, I got a cookbook this thick. No. Prabhupada said, do this. She said, how can I help? She said, how can I? And I'm, of course, thinking, how can she help me? I don't know what I'm doing. Somehow Prabhupada wanted me to make upma. Anyway, she opened the trunk. So all we had was the suji, farina. There was some dehydrated peas in a little container there. She said, I have dehydrated. She said, I'll hydrate them, put them in the, yes. So together we made the upma. I brought it into Prabhupada on those marble plates he had, right? Those marble plates are there in Prabhupada's room. Marble katuris, marble bowls are there. And I put the upma in the bowl, and everyone, we're all just waiting. Prabhupada's going to eat. I go in the room and I put it down on the bed, offer obeisances, and I go back out through the doors, standing with the Matajis. We were all the same. We didn't see all these distinctions. Prabhupada didn't see distinctions. Grahasta, sannyasi, brahmachari, Brahmin, Kshatriya, nothing. Everyone was just his servant. He was the Prabhu. We were all servants. He was Prabhupada. We all sat at his lotus feet. And he engaged everyone in devotional service. So after a few minutes, the bell rings. I go in. And of course, I'm looking right away to see how much he ate. And looked like he played with it, like a child would that doesn't like what you gave him, like moved it around a bit or something. And then I offered obeisances and I sat up. And he already knew that I wasn't happy. And he looked at me. He hadn't eaten for a month. But he saw my face and he looked at me. He said, I want you to know the upma was first class. His concern was for everyone else. The whole world were chanting Hare Krishna. 24-hour kirtan started in all the temples around the world. But he wanted to please his disciple. He said it was first class, he said. And I thought if you made upma, he said, maybe it would give me some appetite. He said, but I have no appetite. And again, he said, it was first class upma. That was Prabhupada. All he wanted to do was see all his followers be happy in Krishna consciousness. So then, of course, I got up, went back, and fortunately for us, he recovered. So many things happened after that. I see sign right there, right in front, 8:30. Promptly at 8:30, question and answer is over. There's not a lot of time left, a few minutes left. Anyone has any questions, comments? Just understand what you have. Very wonderful temple here. I see everybody here. Krishna's given you a wonderful facility. Srila Prabhupada given everybody very wonderful facility here. You take advantage of it. Be peaceful in Krishna consciousness, and at the end of this life you can go back home, back to Godhead, and again be with these very same personalities.
What was Prabhupada's daily? What did he have for breakfast and lunch, and did he have dinner?
Yes, right after class, just like we do, was breakfast time. Always fruits, whatever fruits were available. Breakfast was mainly fruits. Might have a little dahi, always a sweet on the plate. Prabhupada had dairy at every meal, milk sweet at every meal. Lunch was the main meal, 1 o'clock, and that was his rice. Every day I made chapatis, every day. Thousands of chapatis I made for Prabhupada. Every day, 4, 5, 6 chapatis. Rice, chapatis, dal. If Corella was there, bitter melon, we'd fry up some Corella because it's very good at the beginning. It helps digestion and it gives you appetite. And evening he would call you in around 8 o'clock or so. If you wanted something in the evening, always hot milk. Every night, hot milk with a little sugar or a little honey. Very hot, boil, had a foam. Sometimes he would call me and say, make puris and sabji, eggplant, potato. Sometimes cabbage and potato. One time he said, "You know how to make paratha?" I said, "No." He showed me how to make parathas. This is 9 o'clock at night. Then you'd be giving him massage 10 o'clock at night. And then he would get up at midnight by 1 o'clock and do his translating work. So always 2 main meals, breakfast and lunch, and supper, dinner, whatever you want to call it. That was optional, but always hot milk. Milk was very important, as he says over and over in his books, and it developed the brain tissue, finer brain tissue, so we can understand philosophy, spiritual subject matters. Yeah. Lots of prasadams. We could go on and on for hours about prasadam. Prabhupada relished prasadam, and I think we all follow in his footsteps. If you don't like prasadam, you have to progress to get to the point of really relishing prasadam. Yeah. You have very wonderful cooks here. I've known Radha here for many, many years. Sometime we have to come long enough you can cook something. Right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the memories. The question I was thinking of when you were talking about Srila Prabhupada was, as time moves and Prabhupada disciples leave their bodies and time separates us from their association with Srila Prabhupada's, as we, as Grihastas bring children into this world, how can we nurture the love of Srila Prabhupada within them?
What was that? How do we nurture?
The love.
Yes. Prabhupada talks so finely of his parents, his mother, he said he lost his mother early age. He said 14 when his mother passed away. I lost my father at 3, but even at 14, Prabhupada said his mother was taken away at a young age, just 14. Prabhupada credits his father, always says his father was pure devotee of Krishna. And he expressed how much, he said he learned everything from his father, how to be a devotee, how to do arati, how to bathe, everything he said he learned from his father. So the relationship should be like that. Always, many times, family grahastas will ask me about children. The only thing you need to do is set an example for them, how to be nice devotee, and love them very, very much. They're precious. Prabhupada said they're not ordinary, and these people born into this society. And we can see that. We certainly had our difficulties early on, and sometimes it continues on. Different parts of the world, fanaticism comes in. I remember Prabhupada had to tell one of his very early ladies, because she was feeling, that's how we would feel. Everyone going out on book distribution, going out chanting, and I'm with this little child. People we were staying with just a week or so ago, same thing. I don't get to do any service. Prabhupada told this woman, she was thinking, I should be out doing books. Prabhupada said, your child is your deity. Your deity. So you should take care of him like that. And Prabhupada, he felt like that as a child. It was the deity he was taken care of very, very nicely. And they grow up very, very fast. And that's what we told this mother. It's all going to be gone in a flash. You may think it's a little difficult, but everything happens, changes quickly, changes in your children. My daughter, she has my granddaughter, her daughter, she's like 12 now, just turning 12 or something. And she was, Vishaka would call her a barnacle, because she was always attached to her mother 24 hours a day. Some of you might experience, you can't even go to the bathroom without your kid wanting to be there sitting on your lap, These things go on like a barnacle. We used to call her a little barnacle, we call her name, Varani. And my daughter called me just a few weeks ago and said, boom, she's gone, 12 years old, no longer interested in hanging on to her mother. So the precious times are there. And somehow or other you have to really enjoy it, the children when they're there. And they'll feel that confidence. It's important they have love, because if you don't give it to them, they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to find it in everybody they meet, They'll be desperate for it. So, does that kind of answer your question? Yeah. So it's a wonderful service, raising children. It's a very important service. There's nothing unimportant. Prabhupada would use that term. I'm already over time, huh? Do I need to stop, or we have dispensation today? What can they do? Kick me out? Not let me speak again. What was I saying now? I'll see that quickly. Yeah. So, anyway, these are very wonderful times we have with the children. Everything most important. And we would get the idea that it meant something else was not as important. Prabhupada said book distribution, most important. So one of the sannyasis, which Prabhupada, should I stop what I'm doing? He was preaching. You say book distribution is most important. Prabhupada said, yes, it is most important. And deity worship is most important. Cooking, most important. Everything is most important. That's Krishna consciousness. Everything we do is most important. We shouldn't think that anything is casual. That attentiveness, consciousness should be there in everything we do. So everything we do is for Krishna, and it's most important. And if we think like that in all of our services, whether it's being a mother, a father, a book distributor, a pujari, most important. Somehow or other, Krishna is very kind. He's given us service. Prabhupada's given us so much service from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. He figured out how to keep us busy. Opportunity to always be busy in service, chanting in service. So that's his little intelligence. Prabhupada said that requires a little intelligence. He understood Westerners, how to engage them, how to always keep them busy serving Krishna. Okay. Anything else? Anyway, it's a pleasure. We're here for the next few hours. We want to see as much of the property as we can, and particularly the Goshala. We spent last December, January at Govardhana Eco Village, Radhanath Swami's project, 3 hours north of Mumbai. Incredible. He literally made a Vrindavan west of Vrindavan. And the last 2 weeks we were there, I think like 7 calves were born. So we really got into raising the calves. She was feeding the calves, carrying the calves, and all this. So the cows are very wonderful animals, and they can give you a lot of peace. When you're struggling, you just go sit with a cow. Just brush a cow, hug a cow, talk to a cow. They're the embodiment, right, of all the demigods, and they're the very Krishna's favorite, the cows. So we're eager to see the cows here as well, and hopefully a few little calves that we can, because the cows are very big. Yes? No, haven't been, we just, yeah. You can take us around. It's wonderful. Good. Yes. Very good. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.